Hello and welcome to Robin Minds. My name is Hero Daniels. I'd like to start off by saying congratulations, Nigeria. Everybody is still in high spirits. Fresh off their record-extending 10th Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON title, the Super Falcons have once again reminded the continent who reigns supreme in the women's football. This conversation celebrates their incredible dominance, the pride they bring to millions of Nigerians, and the beauty of their game, from standout performances to the unshakable spirit that carried them through the tournament. Despite the off-pitch setbacks like delayed training kicks and kits, with the rise of women's football globally, the Falcons are not just winning, they are inspiring. This isn't just about lifting a trophy. It's literally about what it means for young girls watching, the future of football in Nigeria, and for a nation hungry for consistent sporting glory. With me in the studio to unpack the Nigerian excellence, I have Ifreke Inyang, a sports editor with Daily Posts. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very ecstatic. I mean, for somebody that supports the wrong teams, it was good to see a team I support win a trophy. It was dramatic. It was palpitating. it was a lot of emotions. But at the end of the day, we're able to impose our dominance on the African continent for the 10th time.
You know, in the first half, I almost thought that we were not bringing this trophy home, but I don't know the miracle that happened in the second half. What exactly would you say tilted the game?
I think Justin Madugu didn't make some correct tactical decisions, especially in midfield. And I think that our fullbacks were not really up to. I mean, Plumter and Mitchell Alozie are some of our best players in that team. But for some reason, in that first half, they were very exposed, and we saw the Moroccans have joy down the wings and take. I mean, before the final, we had not conceded from open play. And then in 12 minutes, we had conceded twice. So it was something the coach needed to look at and fix at halftime. And I think that there was a bit of nerves facing, the host in the final. It's never an easy thing to play against the host in the final because. Yeah, and the crowd was crazy. The laser.
I was about to talk about
in
that.
their faces. So it was a lot of things they had to walk into in that first half, and then just gather themselves and just reassert their dominance.
So is there no official law banning fans from bringing items that might distract their opponents on the pitch?
I put out a tweet yesterday and I asked that why is CAF still allowing these North African countries get away with these things? Because every time that they're playing a team, at home, they come with these laser lights, and they're always specifically putting. After the game, the Madugo was talking about it that not only they put it in front of the player, they put it into his own eyes, and so it just anything to just unsettle you and just give them their players just a slight advantage, they would do it. And we know that it's very typical of North African teams to always do that. And I think that something has to be done about that. CAF needs to really look at that and just impose sanctions, improve their security checks and all of that.
All right, so while we're talking about the external challenges, let's try and look inwards and talk about our internal challenges, because the Super Falcons actually won this trophy against all odds. If we were to go with the level of preparation from our own football governing body, if they had performed or underperformed rather, I don't think they would be blamed, because I mean we had issues with the training kids. What exactly is the issue with the governing body when it comes to football?
It's a sad situation with Nigerian football. The issues are the same. And you can't trust that in the next competition it will not arise again. So I think they need to take a look at themselves, because at the end of the day, when the Super Falcons won the trophy, you could see all of them come together and try to hijack the trophy off them. But I think the girls outperformed themselves despite the setback, despite the issues, despite the late arrival of kids and all of that. In fact, I think a day or 2 days before the final, President Bola Tinubu had to ask the NFF or those in charge to appropriate their bonuses and their allowances to them, which is very sad, because you would think that there's reward for good performances, and the Super Falcons were exceptional. I mean, until the quarterfinal, they had not considered a goal and they were winning their games, and then there was no desire to reward them, to encourage them, to motivate them, even up until the day they are ready to play the final, you needed the intervention of the president to make that happen. I think the sport officials, the NFF, should look at themselves, like just reflect at their own behaviors and do better moving forward.
This conversation has been ongoing, and I think I was watching a particular podcast where Mikel Obi stated that he still hasn't been refunded for the amount of money he paid at some point, to get his co-players to a certain tournament, and this issue just keeps going on and on. What would you suggest would be a permanent solution to make sure that our players are well taken care of?
Well, I don't think that what we are asking here is rocket science, because the Super Falcons have won the WAFCON. CAF has doubled the prize money to $1 million. So this money is available, and what I read is that 30% of that money is supposed to go to the squad, the players, the coaches. It's a simple thing. You get the money, you allocate the money. But somehow the money is always trapped somewhere, it doesn't get to the place, and then there's now drama, and it becomes a mess. And then you now hear that they're owing people money from a year, 2 years, the last tournament. You just really wonder that why is a simple process now become very complicated? It's a very simple process. You get the money, allocate the money, everybody moves on.
Let's talk about women's football. I think women's sports generally versus men's sports, you'd see that there's more of funding in the men's sports, and people would argue that it's just pure economics. The people that come to see these matches for men versus the people that come to see these matches for women. But now we're increasingly seeing stadiums fill up because of our women. What does this mean for women's sports?
I still think that there is a lot of work to be done in making female football like as big or as interesting or as money spinning as the male football, because for instance with WAFCON, for instance, I think the first competition was in '96 or something, and meanwhile there's been the AFCON, which is the male version, since 1960, whenever I was 50 something. So it has, you'd say in that sense of the word, they've paid their dues, they've earned their right, and I think the women also have to, because in this tournament, I think in some games that I watched, the stadium was not particularly full and the fans stayed away. But it gradually got towards the quarterfinal, semifinal, they began to team around the countries they're supporting and just show up. So I think that yes, women football has come a bit after the men's football, but they have to keep at it, keep putting in the work, giving us fantastic games, and then they would earn what they deserve.
All right, now let's talk about our players. With consistent showing up and showing out in terms of the matches, you see the likes of Asisat, Rashidat was also such a shining light. What do you think are the opportunities that are available to our local players internationally, especially with this outing? Any predictions?
I think that some of the players already made moves. Like I know our goalkeeper already moved to Brighton, and I think some of them already play for good clubs in Europe, in Canada, in the US, But I think that every time you have is a window. Every time you are able to, which is why that despite the fact there are external issues back home, it's like once you step on that pitch, it's business as usual. You handle what has to be handled on the pitch, and then you let whatever has to happen behind the scenes happen. I think that with this tournament, some of these names have come to the fore, and it will not be a surprise that they get some moves, some really big, important moves, because I think there are some really good players in there, for some clubs to pick up.
Okay, so beyond winning the tournaments, what does this victory represent for Nigerians, women particularly?
I think that it reminded the continent that we are the boss, because I think the only other country that has won this WAFCON is South Africa. And I think they are the only ones that gave us a tough game at this tournament. Don't really pay much details into what happened in that first half, because it under the circumstances, I mean, whatever. But I think that it was important. The nature of the comeback, how emphatic it was just important. I mean, a very solid message to the continent that we are the ones that are in charge of this thing. So if you want to come for a crown, you better be ready.
I'm putting the work.
Put in the work. Put in the work. And I think that I wonder what the conversation at halftime would have been like. Like, this is not us. We are the queens of Africa. It doesn't matter if we are playing against the host. It doesn't matter what the crowd or the light in our faces. Let's stand up and be counted. We have 45 minutes to get our Mission X completed. And that's exactly what they did.
Who was your player? I know, of course, they've announced the official player of the match, but who was your player for the tournament?
That is an incredibly hard thing to. But I was quite impressed by the leadership of Rasheedat Ajibade. I think she has grown. I've seen her grown into her own, and I like Aziza Shola, despite the fact that she doesn't really have like a starting spot. She's no longer as important as she used to be. But whenever she came around, she brought her A game. I was also very impressed by Esther Okoronkwo in the final, and that is what it means to grab a game by the scruff of the neck. You just stand up and you just insist that this game has to be won. I don't care what is happening around me. I don't care who's not up for it, but there's a final yet to be won, and she was emphatic. She was magnificent. Also, kudos go to our goalkeeper. And there are a lot of. At the end, they have to go through the team because there are a lot of very, very special performances. But it was a good squad generally that we took to the WAFCON.
I loved how you were throwing names, and each of those names had a different tribe. And it just reminded me of the fact that when it comes to football, everybody suddenly forgets that they are from a certain region of the country. In that very moment, we are all Nigerians. So what does this mean for the unity of the country, and how can we consistently leverage football to preach the gospel of unity, especially in times where it looks like we are divided amongst ethnic and religious lines?
Some of the tribalism, and we see in Nigeria generally now is very disappointing how it has grown. But football is one language. Everybody shouts goal. It doesn't matter what language you speak. So yesterday night, you didn't know. You could have been in a viewing center with 1,000 people. You didn't know who was Yoruba, who was Hausa, who was Ishekiri, who was from Akwa Ibom. Everybody was supporting Aziza Shola, was supporting Okoronkwo, was supporting Echejini. They didn't say, oh, no, you Igbo girl, go away, So I think that football should also act as a unifying factor in the country because it's one language and it can just push us in one direction.
Ifreka Young, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program, and you were such a great sport.
Thank you for having me.
Do enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
And you too.